You just realized that you needed to hire someone yesterday. How can you find amazing candidates fast? Easy. Just use Indeed. When it comes to hiring, Indeed is all you need. Stop struggling to get your job posts seen on other job sites. Indeed-sponsored jobs help you stand out and hire fast. With sponsored jobs, your post jumps to the top of the page for your relevant candidates so you can reach the people that you want faster. And it makes a huge difference. According to Indeed data, sponsored jobs posted directly on Indeed have 45% more applications than non-sponsored jobs. Plus, with Indeed-sponsored jobs, there's no monthly subscriptions, no long-term contracts, and you only pay for results. How fast is Indeed? Well, in the minute I've been talking to you, 23 hires were made on Indeed, according to Indeed data worldwide. There's no need to wait any longer. Speed up your hiring right now with Indeed. And listeners of this show will get a $75 sponsored job credit to get your jobs more visibility at Indeed.com/BWN. Just go to Indeed.com/BWN right now and support our show by saying that you heard about Indeed on this podcast. Indeed.com/BWN. Terms and conditions apply. Hiring? Indeed is all you need.
And away we go, episode 1102 of the Al Galdi podcast. It is Wednesday, June 25th, 2025. It is the day of the first round of the 2025 NBA draft. It is the day after a reported major trade by our Wizards. The breaking news on Tuesday afternoon, the Wizards reportedly agreeing to trade Jordan Poole, Saddiq Bey, and the 40th overall pick in the 2025 NBA draft to the New Orleans Pelicans for C.J. McCollum, Kelly Olynyk, and a future second-round pick. Another all-in rebuild move by Monumental Basketball president Michael Winger and Wizards general manager Will Dawkins. C.J. McCollum is on an expiring contract, though he can still play. Kelly Olynyk, who famously torched the Wizards in their Game 7 loss at the Boston Celtics in the second round of the NBA playoffs in 2017, he is on an expiring contract. And so, our Wizards, per ESPN NBA insider Shams Charania, now are expected to approach $100 million in salary cap space in 2026. What is that about? Could it be that our rebuilding and tanking Wizards are planning on contending come the 2026-2027 season? Or are the Wizards planning on using that cap space to take on more bad contracts and get more draft capital? But Jordan Poole, thank you for your service. He was much better this past season as compared to in his first season with the Wizards. Saddiq Bey, who never played a single game for the Wizards and spending all of this past season recovering from a torn left ACL that he suffered in March 2024. Thank you for your service. And so the Wizards in the 2025 NBA draft now have the numbers 6 and 18 overall picks. So this will be the team's third draft under Michael Winger and Will Dawkins. This is a big draft for our Wizards. So what will they do? How will they do? Will we look back upon whatever they do with pleasure and delight? Or will we look back upon whatever they do with disdain and sarcasm? You know, we on Tuesday's show, episode 1101, had some scheduled fun with the Wizards in the 2011 NBA draft, taking Jan Vesely with the number 6 overall pick and Chris Singleton with the number 18 overall pick. Well, whatever the Wizards do in this 2025 NBA draft be looked back upon as a win or as a punchline. Here's what I do know. The number one reason that the Bullet/Wizards have not advanced past the second round of the NBA playoffs since 1979 is bad drafting. The drafting has been hideous. The drafting needs to be better. See the Wizards taking Alexei Petrov with the number 18 overall pick in the 2006 NBA draft. See the Wizards taking Troy Brown Jr. with the number 15 overall pick in the 2018 NBA draft. See the Wizards taking Johnny Davis with the number 10 overall pick in the 2022 NBA draft.
With the 10th pick in the 2022 NBA draft, the Washington Wizards select Johnny Davis from the University of Wisconsin.
Yes, thank you, NBA Commissioner Adam Silver. Coming up later in the show, in-depth preview of the Wizards in the 2025 NBA Draft, as we'll chat with Wizards insider Josh Robbins of The Athletic. Josh has intel on the Wizards draft board. Trust me, you don't want to miss that. Hello and welcome to this Wednesday installment of the Al Galdi podcast. This is a two-guest installment of the podcast. Next segment, a conversation with Michael Phillips, founding editor of the Richmonder. Michael covered the Redskins / Washington football team / Commanders for years for the Richmond Times-Dispatch. And we, with Michael, are going to explore the Washington legacy of former Skins limited partner Fred Smith, who this past Saturday died at the age of 80. Fred Smith became a big-time force in the ouster of Dan Snyder as lead owner of the team, but Fred Smith also is a major reason that the name of the team no longer is Redskins. Michael give us a sober and objective analysis of what exactly went down with Fred Smith, and also discuss the Commanders' offseason, why Virginia faded in the team sweepstakes for a new stadium, and a notable truth about where the majority of Commanders' season ticket holders live. Michael Phillips, next segment, talking Commanders. Speaking of the Commanders' next stadium, interesting stuff from 7 News DC sports director Scott Abraham in a post on X on Tuesday afternoon. Quote, "The Washington Commanders have not ruled out the possibility of a retractable roof for the new potential stadium at the RFK site, according to a source close to the situation. The team is also having conversations about keeping RFK in the new stadium name, according to source," end quote. So my understanding is that a retractable roof is absurdly expensive, as in hundreds of millions of dollars. I just expected the roof on the stadium, and we know that there will be a roof to be a permanent roof, but I guess maybe not. And with RFK being in the name of the new stadium, well, I would ask for how long, because the widespread expectation has been that the stadium will have a corporate name, given how much money that can generate, but we shall see. Also on the show, I'll talk Nationals and Orioles. The Nats, they late night on Tuesday night lost at the San Diego Padres 4-3 in a game in which the Nats blew a 3-0 fourth-inning lead. The O's, they on Tuesday evening lost to the Texas Rangers 6-5 in 10 innings at Oriole Park at Camden Yards, in a game in which the O's overcame a 4-0 seventh-inning deficit with a 5-run seventh in which they homered in each of 3 consecutive plate appearances. You can hit me up on X at Al Galdi. You can email me, the Al Galdi podcast at yahoo.com. Email from Jim Johnson for conversation on this past Friday show, episode 1099, with Brandon Thorne, owner of the Trench Warfare newsletter, on the Commanders' offensive and defensive lines. So Brandon is a veteran. Writes Jim, "Dear Al, greetings from the Middle East. And thank you for keeping DC sports alive for those of us working far from home. I've been a loyal listener since your early double-digit episodes. After 26 years in the military, I've continued my work in the region as a security consultant, and your podcast, along with others in the DC sports ecosystem, has been an invaluable morale booster. Growing up, my father raised me on a steady diet of the Skins, Bullets, Terps, and Orioles, so your detailed coverage across all DC teams resonates deeply. I've reached out to a few folks in the Commanders' orbit hoping to support the team's international expansion, but haven't had much luck getting positive contact. I'd initially held off contacting you directly, knowing how much time and effort goes into your daily shows, but after your episode with fellow vet Brandon Thorne, I decided to take one last shot. If possible, I'd be grateful for your help on 2 fronts, sharing a message with the Commanders business team. Number 1, the Commanders' designation in the NFL Global Markets Program for the UAE represents a major opportunity. I've worked in the Gulf region for decades and would be honored to support the team's strategic efforts. I've reached out to team officials, including Mark Klaus, who, like me, is a West Point grad, but I imagine that inboxes get crowded. If you have a contact or could pass this along, I'd truly appreciate it. Number 2, framing the brotherhood for the fan base. I know that the team name remains a charged topic, but I believe there's a way to reframe the conversation. Josh Harris recently said that the new name means something in the building. That struck a chord. In the Army's 75th Ranger Regiment, the Black Beret once symbolized elite brotherhood. When that changed to a tan beret, it didn't erase our legacy. It evolved it. Maybe that's what Harris is getting at. A new emblem, same mission, same pride. I hope that analogy might resonate with your audience next time the subject comes up. Thanks again for all the work that you do to keep DC sports fans informed and connected. Wherever we are in the world, stay healthy and well. Well, thank you very much for the email, Jim. All the best to you in the Middle East. It was a pleasure reading your email, and I'll see what I can do to help your cause, but hopefully just me reading your email helps your cause. We have so many great people who listen to this podcast, and we have people all over the world. You never know who is listening. You never know where who is listening might be listening. Hey, congratulations to our friend Chris Nace, lead attorney for the Nace Law Group, Accident and Injury Lawyers. So Chris has been named a 2025 Law Dragon 500 leading plaintiff consumer lawyer. His dedication to justice and client advocacy continues to make a real impact. Also, congrats to Samantha Peters of the Nace Law Group. She was recently elected to the Board of Governors of the Trial Lawyers Association of Metropolitan Washington, D.C. Founded in 1979, the Nace Law Group is a Washington, D.C.-based family law firm that handles medical malpractice, personal injury, birth injury, legal malpractice, and consumer protection cases, offering aggressive advocacy for victims in Washington, D.C. and West Virginia. If you feel that you've been wronged, if you think that you've been wronged but aren't sure, contact the Nace Law Group, Accident and Injury Lawyers, and schedule a no-obligation appointment. Call 202-902-7611 or visit Washington, D.C., injurylawyers.com and tell the Nace Law Group that Al Galdi sent you. The Nace Law Group is outstanding. Chris Nace and the rest of the team do excellent work. They'll fight for you and your family. They can help you and your family make difficult decisions. So the Nace Law Group has recovered millions of dollars for the sick and injured. If you have a case, contact the Nace Law Group. Call 202-902-7611 or visit Washington, D.C., injurylawyers.com and tell the Nace Law Group that Al Galdi sent you. That's 202-902-7611 or Washington, D.C., injurylawyers.com. And make sure that you mention that Al Galdi sent you. The Nace Law Group, Accident and Injury Lawyers. Hey, if you are listening to this podcast via Apple Podcasts or Spotify, you can rate the podcast with a star rating. 5-star ratings are greatly appreciated. They help us out a lot. Thank you for doing them. So we late night this past Saturday night had the news that former Redskins limited partner Fred Smith had died. He was 80. The Commanders on Sunday morning put out a statement, quote, "The Washington Commanders mourn the passing of Frederick W. Smith, FedEx founder and executive chairman. Mr. Smith was a highly respected philanthropist and innovative businessman whose investments once included a minority stake in our team. He also proudly served our country in the U.S. Marine Corps. We send our sincere condolences to Mr. Smith's family and loved ones, as well as our friends across the FedEx organization," end quote. Fred Smith was part of the trio of Skins limited partners with whom the team's then lead owner, Dan Snyder, had a massive falling out. The three limited partners were Fred Smith, Robert Rothman, and Dwight Schar. Snyder ultimately bought out Schar, Rothman, and Smith in a transaction that was completed on April 2nd, 2021, but not before Smith pulled the ultimate gangsta move. Fred Smith was the chairman, president, and chief executive officer of FedEx. He founded FedEx in 1971. FedEx, of course, for decades had a stadium naming rights deal with the Skins, a reported 27-year, $205 million deal that started in November 1999, $7.59 million per year. But it was FedEx that on Thursday evening, July 2nd, 2020, put out the unforgettable statement, quote, "We have communicated to the team at Washington our request that they change the team name," end quote. And that statement essentially was the death blow to the name Redskins. The Skins, the following morning, July 3rd, 2020, issued a statement that led with the following, quote, "In light of recent events around our country and feedback from our community, the Washington Redskins are announcing the team will undergo a thorough review of the team's name," end quote. We later on Friday, July 3rd, 2020, had multiple reports that the Skins would be changing their name, and the Skins on Monday, July 13th, 2020, announced that they would be retiring the Redskins name and logo. I am very pleased to welcome back to the Al Galdi podcast Michael Phillips. Michael worked for the Richmond Times-Dispatch from October 2007 to July 2023, including covering the Skins/Washington football team/Commanders for many of those years. He is the founding editor of the Richmonder, which he founded in May 2024. You can find the Richmonder at richmonder.org. And he is the host of MP on the Mic on 910 The Fan in Richmond, Virginia. You can follow Michael on X at Michael P. in RVA. Hey, Michael, how are you?
With an intro like that, I feel good. We just need a smoke machine. We'll be ready to go here. Always fun to join you, Al.
I appreciate you coming back on. Congrats on the recent one-year anniversary of the Richmonder. For those who don't know, what is the mission of the Richmonder?
Yeah, man, it's we got 4 full-time people over here writing, and it's a lot of what the newspaper used to do, and you say that in DC now too, covering local events, telling you people you need to know around town, and we sense that there was an appetite for that, and I'm thrilled that we've been proven right. We got a ton of people reading us each day, and I think we're working to bring back local news, people in the community, people you need to know, and of course. Still doing my radio thing over on The Fan as well. We're talking plenty of football because I know there's a ton of excitement brewing for this season.
Yes, sir, very much so. And you just alluded to this, but yeah, no more Metro section for the Washington Post. The end of an era. Things in your business of print journalism are changing rapidly. You don't need me to tell you that.
It's changing fast, and we're. People ask like, how's AI going to impact your business, or ChatGPT or any of that? So we're just kind of selling ourselves as we're very old school over here. We're kind of the Amish gang. We're going to do it the old fashioned way. Go interview people in person, write stories, and hopefully that'll be a compelling sales pitch to people.
I gotcha. Well, all the best with the Richmonder. I wanted to have you on to hit on a few items with the Commanders, but you to me are a good person with whom to discuss the, shall we say, complicated legacy of Fred Smith with Washington fans. And just to be clear, the focus here is his legacy with Washington fans. Fred Smith had a tremendous career in business. FedEx is one of the most successful companies in the world. Fred Smith served in the Marines. Fred Smith was very charitable. All of these things are to be lauded. But when it comes to his time as a limited partner with the Skins, on the one hand, he came to be an anti-Dan Snyder force that should not be underestimated in the ouster of Snyder as owner of the team. But on the other hand, Smith went scorched earth in his company, FedEx, really humiliating the team and calling for the team to change its name, causing severe damage to the franchise. What to you is the true legacy of Fred Smith with Washington?
When Dan Snyder capitalized the team, I use that in the financial sense, right? He took over, he bought the team, record amount of money, of course, to pay for a team, but he saw what a lot of people didn't see at the time, which was there's a ton of money moving into the sports and events space, and FedEx was one of his first partners in that. Bought the naming rights to Jack Kent Cooke Stadium, put FedEx all over the place. You'll go back and watch all those great RG3 Shanahan era press conferences is FedEx logo in the background, and $27 million a year is one of the big sports deals at the time. So his money created the problem in some ways, right? Of the money ruining the experience for fans and ultimately pricing them out and moving longtime fans and leading to the demise of the ticket waiting list and all that. But you certainly give him points at the end. His money fixed the Dan Snyder problem at the end as well. And certainly his decision to sell back his shares at an extremely reduced value to Dan Snyder paved the way for the sale to Josh Harris, which of course I think we all recognize as the greatest event for this team since the 1991 Super Bowl.
Regarding Fred Smith playing a role in the ouster of Dan Snyder as owner of the team, so the pushback to that would be this. Dan Snyder ultimately bought out his disgruntled limited partners, Robert Rothman, Dwight Scharr, and Fred Smith, in a transaction that was completed on April 2nd, 2021. And Snyder bought out Rothman, Scharr, and Smith at a reported $875 million, a severely discounted price. The sale of the Commanders from Dan and Tanya Snyder to the Josh Harris Group was not officially completed until July 21st, 2023. So Snyder bought out Rothman, Scharr, and Smith more than 2 years before officially selling the team, and bought out those guys at a severely discounted price. So Are we overstating things in saying that Smith was a key figure in the ouster of Snyder as owner of the team? Because Snyder, in a lot of ways, won his battle with his three disgruntled limited partners.
Oh, no question. Yeah, he turned his investment into a ton of money, and he cashed out along the way with the team as well. It's not just the $6 billion; it's all the money he made every year as well. Yeah, he is the big winner here, but they could have been bigger winners. They could have held out longer and longer for a sale and made life difficult. Part of that too is the NFL works very hard to settle everything in house. Right? They got the arbitration agreement and all that. And when they had the dispute, they agreed to go to arbitration. That's what the arbitrator decided. And they ultimately chose to walk away, with that verdict rather than make a scene about it in court, which the league would have frowned upon. It did clear the way because there were no issues for Josh Harris when he bought the team. He had full 100% control. That was what he wanted, allowed him to bring his partners in. You remember he needed the full maximum 17 allowable partners to get to the $6 billion to buy the team, which he wouldn't have had if those guys had stayed in, Dwight Schar, Rothman, and Fred Smith. On the other hand, as you mentioned, he arguably did the most to change the name, which a lot of people are going to have a lot of feelings about now and forever. They were the company. And that was, I always say this, the name didn't change because Native Americans were offended. The name changed because the money spoke. And the money was in large part directed at Dan Snyder. It wasn't a protest against the name. It was a protest against the owner. And that's what happened. Fred Smith was tired of dealing with Dan Snyder and was annoyed with Dan Snyder. And what's the thing he loves? And they took it from him, and they did so very effectively. And I think that event is also a catalyst on the way to the name change, right? Yeah, Dan Snyder ends up selling a thing that he kind of believes isn't really his because it's not what he was attached to.
When it comes to that statement from FedEx on July 2nd, 2020, calling for the Redskins to change their name, my take always has been that I don't think for a second that Fred Smith all of a sudden found religion on the name.
No.
Yeah, right. This was him going scorched earth and saying, I'm going to burn the house down. And look, what he did worked, but it sounds like you agree with me that Fred Smith didn't all of a sudden believe, oh, golly gee, this name's offensive, we better change it.
No, he woke up and said, I hate that guy. What can I do to take away something he loves? And he did it, and he did it very effectively. And you remember there was the FedEx statement, and then I want to say like a few hours after it was reported, Nike, Walmart, there were a ton of other big dominoes that fell right behind them. I find it hard to believe that was accidental, that they were all got statements prepared and authorized from their leadership within 3 hours. I think he led a fully coordinated effort.
If FedEx had never put out that statement, would the name of the team still be Redskins?
They were going to do whatever it took to get Dan Snyder out as the owner, and that happened to be what it took. If he doesn't make the statement and Dan Snyder keeps owning the team, eventually somebody takes it away under this guise of, protecting the team, protecting the franchise, protecting the city, but most importantly, protecting the other 31 owners and their investment. We talked about this ad nauseum at the time, but it's worth refreshing everybody's memory. The national TV deals drive the NFL's interests, their revenues. And those national TV deals are built on big games. They're built on, big stars and big games. And the NFC East is the four highest, most recognized, biggest teams. And you had a scenario where, if the Commanders Redskins football team are bad, they're dragging down 6 primo games from that TV package, right? Because now all of a sudden you can't sell Redskins Cowboys on Thanksgiving anymore. You can't sell Redskins Giants as a 425 game. Them being bad dragged down the whole TV package, and that's what ultimately led the owners to act. And so it was going to happen in some way. The alternative was if Dan Snyder had sold with the name still intact. I don't know that Josh Harris's group would have changed it along the way. Now that the team's good, you can name them whatever you want to name them, as evidenced by the fact that they're sticking with Commanders. I think it was a unique point and moment in time where they had the leverage to do that to help force the sale.
So just to be clear, if FedEx had never put out that statement, you don't think that it's necessarily the case that the name of the team would still be Redskins?
I don't think so. I think eventually Roger Goodell would have gotten somebody else to do his bidding on that issue. I think they were very determined to run Dan Snyder at that time, and Fred Smith was too, for the, what he felt was the personal harm he had been done along the way. But I think somebody else would have stepped up and done it ultimately.
Much more with Michael Phillips in moments. As you probably can tell, given the heat wave that we're in the midst of, summer officially started this past Friday. Happy summer, and know that if you live in Northern Virginia, you can count on Nova Fireplace and Stove for whatever your outdoor living needs may be. Nova Fireplace and Stove offers custom outdoor fireplaces, outdoor kitchens, grills, fire pits, and patio heaters. Nova Fireplace and Stove offers free in-home estimates for Northern Virginia residents for outdoor kitchens and gas lines. If you live in Northern Virginia and want to increase the look, feel, and value of your home via high-level outdoor living, contact Nova Fireplace and Stove, which is offering a special deal for listeners of the Al Galdi podcast. Call 571-513-3803 or visit NovaFireplaceandStove.com and tell Nova Fireplace and Stove that Al Galdi sent you. You do that, you get $50 off any fireplace service before September 1st. This includes cleaning, safety inspection, tune-up, and diagnostic work. Also, Nova Fireplace and Stove offers generators, car charging stations, patio pavers, and water heater replacement/repair. Nova Fireplace and Stove has been around for 2+ decades and is outstanding. It is family owned. It is a 5-star dealer. It is expanding its showroom in Woodbridge, Virginia to include a new outdoor showroom section. Call 571-513-3803. Asked to speak to Stuart Moore. He's the general manager. He's a big Commanders fan. He's a loyal listener of this podcast. And make sure that you mention that Al Galdi sent you. Also visit NovaFireplaceandStove.com to check out customer reviews. 571-513-3803 or NovaFireplaceandStove.com and tell Nova Fireplace and Stove that Al Galdi sent you. You do that, you get $50 off any fireplace service before September 1st. We're talking Commanders with Michael Phillips, founding editor of the Richmonder. We last spoke in December. Commanders managing partner Josh Harris, during his end-of-season press conference on February 3rd, made it clear that the team is sticking with the name Commanders. What do you think of that?
Well, I don't like it because I don't like the name Commanders. I get that it's not easy to come up with a name and identity everybody likes. I get that there's a lot of momentum because the team is good right now. I think it's a bad name. I don't think it will withstand the test of time. I don't think it's appealing to young fans. And another, it's the middle of summer, so we can talk about business things, more in depth. But these guys, you think about the average business is in the customer retention game, right? The average NFL team is retaining their fan base on a daily basis. These guys are in the customer acquisition business, and that's harder. They need to get new fans on board because they don't have enough fans because of all the people who jumped off the bandwagon. I just don't think Commanders is cool, compelling. I don't think it's bringing people to the table. I think Jay Daniels is bringing people to the table. I don't think the name Commanders is. I think you've got an opportunity here in your first years to get this rebrand right, to get a name that's going to fly for the next 30, 50, 70 years and allow you to do the things you want to do and build the fan base you want to build.
We on this podcast have been discussing the surprising reality that the Commanders' home attendance for the 2024 regular season was down from the team's home attendance for the 2023 regular season. Wasn't down by much, but the fact that the terrible 2023 team outdrew the magical 2024 team certainly wouldn't seem to be some ringing endorsement of people taking to the name Commanders, although we did have that Washington Post poll. According to a Washington Post Schar School poll, 50% of all Washington, D.C. area adults now like or love the Commanders team name, up from 34% a year ago. The poll was conducted from April 22nd through May 4th and was of 1,667 D.C. area residents. So a lot to take in with the name these days.
I don't want to dunk on the Washington Post over and over again, but I'll take one more. You can lob me one more alley-oop. Do you remember right after the Nats won the World Series, they did a poll and it was like, who's your favorite team in DC? And I was like, it's the Nats, of course. And they were like, Nationals have 70% of the market. Forget the Redskins. They're old news. Is like, no, No, it's not. They just won the World Series. Get out of town. Like, you do that poll after the Capitals win. Everybody's got, Ovi's my guy. Ovi's the best athlete in DC. Come on. Yeah, always thought that was a little bit ridiculous when they did that. The moment is hot right now. Jaden Daniels is hot. The team's hot. The market's hot. It won't be that way forever. That poll's not going to be duplicated when they're coming off of even a 9-8 season or a wild card loss. So I don't put a ton of stock into that. I don't love it as a name. I think they'll draw well this year. I think the bounce back's here. I think a lot of it was, and this is why Cliff Kingsbury's still here, people weren't sure whether to believe in it, even all the way up to that Tennessee game, right? I mean, we were holding our breath, and if they don't pull out some of those wins, this wasn't a playoff team. They were on that knife's edge, and I think that attendance is still low, and we're having very different conversational topics. So I think people were hesitant to jump back in with both feet, even as late as early December. It was truly that playoff run that I think has ignited this thing.
Let's talk some actual football. Is Michael Phillips a fan of what the Commanders have done this offseason?
I think they did what they had to do, which was you have to build around Jaden Daniels, right? You have to get him a left tackle for now. They did, and Laramie Tunsil. You have to get him a left tackle for later. That's Josh Connerly. So I wouldn't redo either of those moves. I think they're both excellent moves. They've got the full sign off from me. You need to go get a weapon. You got Deebo Samuel. I'd do that again. I think that was a great move. All right. So having said all that, clearly they didn't do enough for the defense. Everybody sees that. There just isn't enough there to give you confidence that this defense is going to hold up in a 17-game season. They're going to have to win a lot of games like the Bengals did last year, 45-42, right? Which is not a great way to live. It's a fun product. We'll enjoy watching it. So I applaud their offseason moves while also cautiously saying I think that maybe the team is just as good as it was last year, but there's maybe a natural step back just from a tougher schedule, tougher demands on them, all those things. But nothing that would cause me to think, this team isn't in a great place long term.
The prevailing over-under win total for the Commanders in the 2025 regular season is 9.5. Are you right now going over or under?
I am playing the under at the moment, but it's really close. I mean, I think they hit if you offer me a 9 or 10, I'll go ahead and lock that in right now. I think that's probably about the number. I just think, the Hail Mary, that stuff doesn't happen every year, every game. The Atlanta game, Raheem Morris forgets how to call timeouts. That stuff's not going to happen every year, right? They play Chicago this year. They play Atlanta this year. If those two variables get switched, all of a sudden this is a team with 2 fewer wins. But they're not any better or any worse. They're still the same team. The record's 2 games different. It's a tougher schedule. AFC West, NFC North. All 8 of those games, minus maybe the Raiders, are going to be mega competitive out of that group. There just aren't any duds there. I think it's going to be a tougher climb for them, but I don't think the team got worse.
The Commanders deal with Washington, D.C. for a stadium on the RFK Stadium site in D.C. We are waiting on the D.C. Council to vote on the deal, but the expectation does remain that the council will pass the deal. You know Virginia politics well. Virginia, for a long time, was considered the favorite in the sweepstakes for the team's next stadium, but ended up fading badly over the last few years. Why'd that happen?
Well, I think we, first off, start with RFK. It's the perfect site. Everybody wants them at RFK. We didn't think Dan Snyder had access to RFK, and he didn't. He was under congressional investigation. He didn't have the juice to move that site into the in-play range. So that was a game changer, obviously. Virginia was, of course, the government was always very pro-Redskins, pro-business, pro all those things. So it felt like the best place to do a deal. And there's a ton of land, and that's where the money is growing and going, right? When they talk about Loudoun County, the defense contractors, Capital One has a big presence in Tysons, right? All these big companies that are nearby. So you have a big corporate base. I don't think the Glenn Youngkin, Ted Leonsis deal was what killed this deal, but I know it didn't help. Right? When that stadium went kaput, I don't think that did this in by any stretch. but it didn't help. It was just another data point along that path. I think ultimately the availability of RFK Stadium trumped everything. And I think that's the reason they're going to DC. It's the perfect site. It's the perfect place for Josh Harris to build his real estate empire. It's what everybody wants.
I remember you once telling me that the majority of fans of the Redskins / Washington football team / Commanders now live in Virginia, not D.C. or Maryland. Is that still the case?
That is factually true of the season ticket holder base. They have more season ticket holders in Virginia. Obviously, I haven't freshened up the numbers in the last couple of years, but at the time they did. I think you can extrapolate for the fan base. That is true as well. It comes down to Richmond, down to Norfolk. I think it's probably solidified, if anything, with Lamar Jackson's rise in Maryland.
Makes sense. Michael Phillips, founding editor of the Richmonder. Michael, thanks.
Hey, good time. Thank you.
All right. Hey, if you are planning a party, a family reunion, a wedding, a corporate gathering, and aren't sure where to start or what to do, no worries, no stress. Just visit cateringbyuptown.com and make sure that you mention that Al Galdi sent you. Catering by Uptown is run by the Pereiras, who are great Commanders fans and loyal supporters of this podcast. Catering by Uptown provides both great service and a great price. Catering by Uptown is a family business, and it specializes in handling everything so that you don't have to. Catering by Uptown understands that special events deserve to be celebrated in style. Catering by Uptown takes care of every detail so that you can enjoy your event. Catering by Uptown is committed to meeting your needs and exceeding your expectations. Great service, amazing cuisine, and reliability are the foundation of what makes Catering by Uptown one of the most referred caterers throughout Maryland, Washington, D.C., and Northern Virginia. And know this, if you visit cateringbyuptown.com and click on venues, you can set up your own personal tour of one of Catering by Uptown's premier venues, including outstanding waterfront venues. Catering by Uptown offers the ability to coordinate services at over 100 of the best reception halls, vineyards, farms, historic homes, event venues, banquet facilities, and wedding venues in the area. Visit cateringbyuptown.com and make sure that you mention that Al Galdi sent you. That's cateringbyuptown.com and make sure that you mention that Al Galdi sent you. The 2025 NBA Draft begins on Wednesday night. It's taking place on June 25th and June 26th at Brooklyn's Barclays Center. The first round is on Wednesday night beginning at 8. The second round is on Thursday night beginning at 8. The Wizards in the 2025 NBA Draft have the numbers 6, 18, and 40 overall picks. It was on May 12th that we had the 2025 NBA Draft Lottery, in which the worst pick that our Wizards could have gotten was number 6, and that, of course, is precisely the pick that our Wizards got in typical Bullets/Wizards NBA Draft Lottery luck. But the Wizards do have 3 of the top 40 picks in this draft, what will be the team's third draft under Monumental Basketball president Michael Winger and Wizards general manager Will Dawkins. What is the team thinking? What should the team be thinking as it continues its rebuild? I'm very pleased to welcome back to the Al Galdi podcast Wizards insider Josh Robbins of The Athletic. You can follow Josh on X at Joshua B. Robbins. Hey, Josh, how are you?
I'm doing well. You sound great, as always.
I appreciate that very much. You wrote a really good piece that came out on June 17th. Headline, quote, "What I'm hearing about the Wizards' strategy for the NBA draft and their rebuild," end quote. You begin the piece with this, quote, "In the immediate aftermath of the 2025 NBA draft lottery, several executives and scouts from front offices across the league expressed to me a profound empathy rather than schadenfreude for the Washington Wizards," end quote. How damaging to the rebuild was the Wizards in this perceived to be loaded 2025 NBA draft, only getting the number 6 overall pick?
To be determined. To be determined. You can always work your way out of subpar drafting position if you draft the right players. And history has shown, including these finals that have just finished, that there are all NBA caliber players who are available in some drafts late in the lottery or even beyond that. And I'm referring specifically to Tyrese Halliburton, Shai Gilgeous-Alexander. Is this draft one of those drafts? I have no idea, but the Wizards have got to evaluate whomever they pick correctly. And they're going to have to find value where other teams don't see the value. So it's twofold. The problems are twofold. One, they're going to be a little bit dependent on what other teams do. And then second, they got to make the right pick with the people available to them. And in my opinion, 6 is not a good place to be in this draft. But they did everything they possibly could to enhance their lottery odds, except they won that last game, and that, I think, hurt them. Clearly it hurt them. They're drafting 6th instead of 5th.
Is there a significant difference in the Wizards in this draft having the number 6 overall pick instead of the number 5 overall pick?
Probably not. Probably not. If they stay at 6, they're not going to get VJ Edgecombe, who arguably is the 3rd best player in the draft. Con Knippel is now seemingly the consensus 4th best player in this draft. I think the real question is, does Ace Bailey fall to number 6? And if he's available at number 6, is he the person the Wizards would draft? And there's a strong argument for him in the sense that, man, he's talented. He can score. And that's a potentially elite skill that he has that very few people in this draft have. That would be a fascinating question if that scenario comes to pass on Wednesday night.
Yet, for those who haven't been following this, why has the stock of Rutgers' Ace Bailey fallen?
Well, there's a lot of scuttlebutt, which is pretty difficult to confirm because so many teams send out smoke signals right now, and no team discusses prospects by name. Both, I mean, certainly for attribution to a particular person. So it's tough to know. I just read a piece by my colleague who specializes in the draft, Sam Viceni, and he's very well plugged in. Bailey did cancel a workout with the Sixers at number 3, and he has said to have interviewed in a subpar fashion during the draft combine. He didn't come off well, apparently. Now, is that true or not? I don't know, but that appears to be the perception within the industry. And that's not all that's the issue. As many teams suspected heading into the combine, he wasn't 6'10" as he was listed by Rutgers. He was 6'7" and a quarter. That matters. It matters because it means he's probably not going to be a 4 at the NBA level. And that's a problem. That's a problem for him. So tack on all the concerns about whether he's a selfish player, whether he has a good feel for the game. And if he drops, those are apparently the reasons why he would drop.
You mentioned NBA draft analyst Sam Viceni of The Athletic. You and your piece that came out on June 17th noted that, quote, a team source said the Wizards draft board is similar to Viceni's, end quote. So it would seem that if the Wizards stick and pick at 6, we may well have a specific narrowed down group of players from which the Wizards will pick.
That's correct. At that time, when I wrote the piece, that 3rd tier of players consisted of 6 people. And now you have the piece in front of you. I don't. So I may leave someone off by accident. So that would include VJ Edgecombe, Jeremiah Fears, Con Knippel, Cam Malawach, Ace Bailey, and who's the 6th person who I'm forgetting?
Is it Trey Johnson?
Trey Johnson. Thank you. That's where I think they would be drafting from, because and what does it say that their board is similar to Sam's? Well, partly because the first 2 picks are so clear and because it's so clear that they belong in different tiers. That Flagg is arguably the 2nd or 3rd best prospect of the last decade. And so it's obvious that he's the top tier. And then Dylan Harper is a potential future perennial all-star and would be at the 2nd tier. So in that sense, Sam, who is very sharp, is accurate, I think. And the Wizard, again, I don't think there's any real debate within the industry about how those top two tiers play out. So that's part of it. That's part of it.
What to you is most likely for the Wizards with their number 6 overall pick in this draft? They trade up, they trade down, or they stick and pick at 6?
I think either is possible. What I can say is that as much as they love Dylan Harper, and I think that they think very highly of Dylan Harper, as a matter of fact, I know they feel very highly of Dylan Harper, there's no reason on earth why the San Antonio Spurs, who are at number 2, would trade out of that pick. When you have the opportunity to add Harper, you take it. Even if you have De'Aaron Fox, even if you have the reigning Rookie of the Year, Steph Castle, on your team. And as far as I'm concerned, there's no one right now on the Wizards roster, even if you were to package a couple of young guys, who would really move San Antonio out of that position, unless the Wizards are willing to part with a whole bunch of their future first-round picks, which I don't anticipate they would ever do, because you need those picks if you're rebuilding.
We're talking with Wizards insider Josh Robbins of The Athletic. You, toward the end of your piece that came out on June 17th, mentioned something that's key regarding the Wizards, and that is that as well regarded as the 2025 NBA draft is, the 2026 NBA draft may be even better. Quote, another key, of course, will be the 2026 draft, which is said to be deeper at the top than this year's draft. End quote. Now, the 2026 NBA draft is the final draft in which the Wizards could convey a first-round pick as part of the John Wall, Russell Westbrook trade of all the way back in December 2020. The Wizards on December 2nd, 2020 traded Wall and a protected first-round pick to the Houston Rockets for Westbrook. The reported terms of the protected first-round pick, 2023 lottery protected, 2024 top 12 protected, 2025 top 10 protected, 2026 top 8 protected. The pick still is not conveyed, and if the pick hasn't conveyed by the 2026 NBA draft, then the pick becomes a second-round pick in the 2026 NBA draft and a second-round pick in the 2027 NBA draft. Bottom line, it would behoove the Wizards this coming season to tank and tank hard in order to not lose that first-round pick in this perceived to be loaded 2026 NBA draft.
Yes, and I think that's the wide consensus. Now, in 2026, there's no problem. Right now, as far as we know, at this stage, 12 months out, there's no top prospect who's as good as Cooper Flagg. Okay? That's true. Even A.J. Debinca, Darren Peterson, they're not at his level right now. But it will be deeper at 3, 4, 5, maybe even 6 than this draft is at 3, 4, 5, and 6. To look at it another way, if, as Sam Viceni rates the second tier in this draft as a future all-star and has only one person in it, Dylan Harper, next year there may not be a superstar of Flagg's tier, but there may be several people in tier 2. In other words, you hit on it in your question, and thank God you're more articulate than I am. The Wizards can't afford to lose that pick next year. They just can't. They need all the picks that they can get. Any rebuilding team does, particularly one that doesn't land the top pick or the second best pick in a good draft. I find it very difficult to see any sort of scenario in which they wind up conveying that pick to New York.
When you look at the 4 players acquired by the Wizards via first-round picks in the 2023 and 2024 NBA drafts, Bilal Coulibaly, Alex Sarr, Bub Carrington, and Keyshawn George, it's still very early with all 4 players, but from what you've seen, from what you know, which guy has the most superstar potential?
You know, that's another great question, and my answer is a lot more cloudy than the sharpness of your question. You would prefer, I think a team would like to know a clear answer and say, oh, well, this guy, he's going to be an all-star caliber player or an upper-level player. I'm not sure any of the people you mentioned yet are, beyond doubt, at that level. Matter of fact, I don't think that they are right now. The person who I think has the highest upside, probably still Bilal, but a lot of that's going to depend on how well his shooting and shot creation come along. And the interesting thing is, in many ways, last year, the guy who had the most translatable game was Keyshawn George. He was just so impressive in terms of his feel for the game, and his defense was much, much better than it was ever advertised. And he's almost 6'10", and he can shoot, probably. So I'm going all over the place in my answer, which is accurate, but it's also a problem, I think, for Washington, that it's not yet clear if any of those four people are going to become upper-level NBA players.
This past Tuesday, June 24th, marked the 2-year anniversary of the Wizards officially announcing having traded Bradley Beal to the Phoenix Suns. There's no doubt that the Wizards waited too long to trade Beal, but the trade still could end up being a very good one for the Wizards. So the Wizards in the Beal trade sent Beal, Jordan Goodwin, and Isaiah Todd to the Suns for a number of assets. The Wizards got 6 second-round draft picks. The Wizards got 4 first-round pick swaps. The Wizards got Chris Paul, who they flipped to the Golden State Warriors for Jordan Poole, Ryan Rollins, Patrick Baldwin Jr., a 2030 first-round pick, a 2027 second-round pick, and cash considerations. And the Wizards in the Beal trade got Landry Shamet. But from the perspective of the Suns, man, it is crazy how poorly things have gone for the Suns since acquiring Beal.
True. In terms of the Suns, I'm more surprised that they couldn't put anything really together in terms of advancing beyond a first round of the playoffs. They weren't even close to that. What a disaster that turned out to be. And it shows that in today's era of these aprons, which have now gone into effect, that if you have 3 guys who are paid so much money, it's so difficult to build out a team around them. That's something I think Phoenix underestimated. And as for Beal, there were warning signs here. I'm not talking about the torn ligament in his wrist, because that's not his fault. He fell, he hurt his wrist. But he was dealing with so many little muscle strains and aches that Phoenix should have gone into it with some concern. And right now, that pick swap for next year for Washington is looking really good, although I would suspect that the Wizards would have hoped that for the Kevin Durant trade to Houston would have sent more draft picks rather than 2 capable players to Phoenix. So, what a disaster this has turned out for Phoenix. And they've made up just a little bit for it with this trade of Durant, but give me Durant over Brad or even Booker. So they had to part with the person who I think is their best player, and they didn't get a whole lot of draft capital for it.
Yeah, it really is something to look back on that Bradley Beal trade now. Wizards insider Josh Robbins of The Athletic. Josh, thanks. All the best.
Hey, my pleasure, and thanks for the great questions.
You just realized that you needed to hire someone yesterday. How can you find amazing candidates fast? Easy. Just use Indeed. When it comes to hiring, Indeed is all you need. Stop struggling to get your job posts seen on other job sites. Indeed sponsored jobs help you stand out and hire fast. With sponsored jobs, your post jumps to the top of the page for your relevant candidates so you can reach the people that you want faster. And it makes a huge difference. According to Indeed data, sponsored jobs posted directly on Indeed have 45% more applications than non-sponsored jobs. Plus, with Indeed sponsored jobs, there's no monthly subscriptions, no long-term contracts, and you only pay for results. How fast is Indeed? Well, in the minute I've been talking to you, 23 hires were made on Indeed, according to Indeed data worldwide. There's no need to wait any longer. Speed up your hiring right now with Indeed. And listeners of this show will get a $75 sponsored job credit to get your jobs more visibility at Indeed.com/BWN. Just go to Indeed.com/BWN right now and support our show by saying that you heard about Indeed on this podcast. Indeed.com/BWN. Terms and conditions apply. Hiring? Indeed is all you need.
Well, the Nationals late night on Tuesday night lost a game in which they blew a 3-0 fourth-inning lead, but their bad bullpen was not to blame. A 4-3 loss at the San Diego Padres late night on Tuesday night in Game 2 of a 3-game series, dropping the Nats to 33-47 in MLB's 2025 regular season. So the Nats now are tied for their most games under 500 this regular season at 14. The Nats starting pitcher was Trevor Williams. He officially allowed 4 runs in 5 innings. He gave up 7 hits, which were a home run, 2 doubles, and 4 singles. He issued 2 walks. He recorded 3 strikeouts. He threw a good number of strikes, 70 pitches, 45 strikes, just 25 balls. So Williams in the bottom of the 4th allowed 2 runs on a single, a ground rule double, an RBI ground out, and an RBI double. Williams in the bottom of the 5th gave up a leadoff first pitch home run by the Padres' number 9 batter, Martin Maldonado, to left center field to tie the game at 3. And Williams in the bottom of the 6th was charged with a run off issuing back-to-back walks over 8 pitches to the first 2 batters he faced in the inning. It's not like he was awful, but he did ultimately allow 4 runs in 5 innings. And so Trevor Williams now for this regular season, 16 starts, ERA of 5.65, whip of 1.47. He does not have enough innings to qualify for MLB's pitching leaderboard, but if he did, he would rank next to last in the majors with that 5.65 ERA and would rank third to last in the majors with that 1.47 whip. 3 Nats relievers in this 4-3 loss at the Padres late night on Tuesday night officially combined for 3 scoreless innings. Cole Henry in the bottom of the 6th faced 4 batters and got 3 outs, including a bases-loaded RBI groundout on which first baseman Nathaniel Lowe did not make the throw home when he probably should have, and Lowe after the play was visibly upset with himself. Henry, to the first batter he faced, did issue a walk of Jake Cronenworth to load the bases despite having had him down in the count at 1.12. But Jose A. Ferrer tossed a perfect bottom of the 7th, and Eduardo Salazar tossed a perfect bottom of the 8th. The biggest problem for the Nats in this game was their offense. The Nats totaled just 3 runs and just 7 hits, did work 3 walks, but went just 1 for 9 with runners in scoring position. The 7 hits were 2 doubles and 5 singles, and the Nats struggled offensively despite catching a break with what happened with the Padres starting pitcher Ryan Bergert. He allowed 3 runs in 3 innings and left the game off being struck by a line drive by Jacob Young on a leadoff full count infield single in a Nats 1-run 4th. Young, as the Nats starting center fielder and number 9 batter, went 2 for 3 with 2 singles, an RBI sac bunt, and a stolen base, improving to just 7 for 15 on stolen bases in this regular season. You know, Jacob Young has been stunningly inefficient on stolen bases. Young in the 2024 regular season had a team best 33 stolen bases, though he only went 33 for 43 on stolen bases. He is one of the fastest players in the majors, but his efficiency on stolen bases has not been great. James Wood, he is the Nats starting left fielder and number 2 batter, went 0 for 4 with a bases-loaded walk and an RBI ground out. He struck out 3 times, including for the final out of the game. James Wood has been outstanding, so you almost feel silly for picking at any nits with this guy. But he does strike out a good bit. Wood, for this regular season, is tied for 5th in the majors in most strikeouts at 95. C.J. Abrams, he is the Nats starting shortstop and number 1 batter, went 2 for 4 with a double, a single, and a walk. Continuing his terrific June, Abrams now for this month of June has an OPS of 873. Also, the Nats on Tuesday night did announce having placed catcher Keibert Ruiz on the 10-day injured list with a head contusion and having recalled catcher Drew Millis from AAA Rochester. Ruiz, in the Nats' 10-6 win at the Padres late night on Monday night, was struck on the head by a foul ball while in the dugout. Riley Adams late night on Tuesday night as the Nats starting catcher and number 8 batter went 1 for 4 with a double. Here was Nats manager Davey Martinez during his postgame session with reporters early Wednesday morning on the nature of this loss, and then you'll hear a follow-up exchange.
We had some chances. We had bases loaded. You know, that was in the games like that. We score 1 or 2 more runs right there. The game's different, but I loved, you know, for Henry coming in a big moment like that. I know he walked the first guy. I know he was a little nervous, but to do what he did was awesome. Ferrer coming in, and then Salazar, who I wanted to give him a big chance to keep us in the game. He threw the ball really, really well as well. So, but we've been hitting the ball the last few days really good. Today we had bases loaded. We just couldn't get those extra couple runs in.
With navigating starters, bullpen decisions, how much of that at this point is contingent on matchups versus this guy's arm is feeling fine? Yeah, we took a step back a little bit. We have to start using everybody. I mean, we can't just use 3 or 4 guys in that bullpen every day. And like I said, I think those guys are capable. It's all about throwing strikes, and that's been the message here so far. Hey, guys, come in the game, just throw strikes. You guys are all got good stuff, And but you got to throw the ball over the strike zone. The walks are going to hurt us, as we saw today. But they came in and they did really well. But like I said, Henry comes in and puts 3 balls on the ground with bases loaded, which is awesome. So to give up 1 run in that situation was great. I thought we had a chance to come back. We couldn't get the bats going, but I'm proud of the kids that come in and held it to just that.
All right, Game 3 for the Nats at the Padres, Wednesday afternoon at 4:10. Mackenzie Gore will be the Nats starting pitcher, as it will be a McKen's Day on a Wednesday. The Padres starting pitcher will be former Nats prospect Nick Pivetta. And while basketball season now may be over, there still is ample opportunity to run your game on Prize Picks via baseball. Put your knowledge of Washington and Baltimore to work for you on Prize Picks, which is offering free cash to listeners of this podcast. Download the Prize Picks app and use the promo code GALDI, my last name, GALDI. You do that, you get $50 instantly after you play your first $5 lineup. Prize Picks Pick'em is available in Virginia and Washington, D.C. You just pick more or less on players in various statistical categories like RBI or strikeouts. And Prize Picks Streak has arrived in Maryland. You make a free daily pick. Just choose more or less on one featured player projection each day and build your streak by winning for 2 or more days. Each correct pick grows your streak. Prize Picks is the best place to win cash while watching sports. Prize Picks is the best daily fantasy sports app, and Prize Picks is offering a special deal to listeners of the Al Galdi podcast. Download the app and use the promo code GALDI, my last name, GALDI. You do that, you get $50 instantly after you play your first $5 lineup. Prize Picks is awesome. I've used it. It's a ton of fun. It's easy to use. You make your picks in less than 60 seconds. You can turn your opinions into real money on Prize Picks and take advantage of what Prize Picks is offering to listeners of this podcast. Download the app, use the promo code GALDI, and you get $50 instantly after you play your first $5 lineup. Prize Picks. Run your game.
You just realized that you needed to hire someone yesterday. How can you find amazing candidates fast? Easy. Just use Indeed. When it comes to hiring, Indeed is all you need. Stop struggling to get your job posts seen on other job sites. Indeed sponsored jobs help you stand out and hire fast. With sponsored jobs, your post jumps to the top of the page for your relevant candidates so you can reach the people that you want faster. And it makes a huge difference. According to Indeed data, sponsored jobs posted directly on Indeed have 45% more applications than non-sponsored jobs. Plus, with Indeed sponsored jobs, there's no monthly subscriptions, no long-term contracts, and you only pay for results. How fast is Indeed? Well, in the minute I've been talking to you, 23 hires were made on Indeed, according to Indeed data worldwide. There's no need to wait any longer. Speed up your hiring right now with Indeed. And listeners of this show will get a $75 sponsored job credit to get your jobs more visibility at Indeed.com/BWN. Just go to Indeed.com/BWN right now and support our show by saying that you heard about Indeed on this podcast. Indeed.com/BWN. Terms and conditions apply. Hiring? Indeed is all you need.
Well, on Tuesday evening had Orioles magic in the air. The O's overcame a 4-0 seventh-inning deficit with a 5-run seventh in which they homered in each of 3 consecutive plate appearances. But the O's did lose a 6-5 10-inning loss to the Texas Rangers at Oriole Park at Camden Yards in Game 2 of a 3-game series. The O's in MLB's 2025 regular season now are 34-45. The O's in this game totaled 5 runs on just 4 hits, which were 3 home runs and a single. The O's worked 4 walks, went 1 for 3 with runners in scoring position. All 5 of the Orioles' runs came in the bottom of the 7th, during which the O's homered in each of 3 consecutive plate appearances as starting catcher and number 4 batter Gary Sanchez hit a 3-run homer to left field on an 0-2 pitch. Starting third baseman and number 5 batter Ramon Urias hit an opposite field solo homer to right field, and starting DH and number 6 batter Ryan O'Hearn hit a solo homer to center field for a 5-4 Orioles lead. 3 home runs over 3 plate appearances. O'Hearn went 1 for 4 with a solo homer. He has not had a good month of June, but he for this regular season still is number 1 among all qualified Orioles players in OPS at 874, and he's number 2 on the O's in homers at 11. The Orioles starting pitcher in this 6-5 10-inning loss to the Rangers on Tuesday evening was Charlie Morton. He allowed 3 runs in 5 innings. He gave up 4 hits, which were a double and 3 singles. He issued 2 walks and a hit by pitch. He recorded 3 strikeouts. He threw 100 pitches, 65 strikes versus 35 balls. And 5 Orioles relievers in this game combined to allow 3 runs, 2 earned in 5 innings. Andrew Kittredge tossed 2/3 of a scoreless inning. He in the top of the 6th faced 5 batters, but got just 2 outs. Keegan Aiken allowed 1 run in 1 1/3 innings. Gregory Soto in the top of the 8th allowed a run. Felix Bautista tossed a scoreless top of the 9th with 2 swinging strikeouts to preserve a 5-all tie, and Sir Anthony Dominguez in the top of the 10th allowed an unearned run despite generating 3 strikeouts. He in the inning issued 2 wild pitches and a walk. Game 3 for the O's against the Rangers at Oriole Park at Camden Yards Wednesday evening at 6:35. Brandon Young will be the Orioles starting pitcher. And that'll do it for you and me for now. Keep the feedback coming. You can hit me up on X at Al Galdi. You can email me the Al Galdi podcast at yahoo.com. Thursday show, episode 1103. We'll provide you with more on the Commanders. Also on Thursday's show, I'll react to whatever our Wizards do in Wednesday night's first round of the 2025 NBA Draft. And on Thursday's show, we'll talk Nationals and Orioles. The Nats are at the San Diego Padres Wednesday afternoon at 4:10 in Game 3 of a 3-game series. The O's are home to the Texas Rangers Wednesday evening at 6:35 in Game 3 of a 3-game series. Have a great rest of your Wednesday, and I'll talk to you on Thursday.
With the 10th pick in the 2022 NBA Draft, the Washington Wizards select Johnny Davis from the University of Wisconsin.